And I'm back, and I am pleased to welcome Mack Ade to the show this evening. Mack was an early member of the Mets blogging community, and for a number of years providing fans with excellent coverage of the New York Mets and the minor leagues. And if you haven't been there, you got to go check out Mack's Mets. Max is the publisher. And Mack, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Mack, news this week about the Mets, concerning the Mets, has been the whole opening day pitchers thing. How do you feel about all of that stuff going on?
Well, I think that the Mets are making a very valiant effort here to build up their ticket sales. There's having Bartolo Colon, on opening day in an away game is probably the safe way to go, and having some of the other pitchers pitch at the home games will sell more tickets. And I know that's not the correct thing to do for baseball, but I think that's the motive here from both Sandy Alderson but also the Wilpons. The other side of it is, does Colon have, does he deserve having first shot because the amount of wins he had last year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could speak to that. I would have given it to Jacob deGrom because he won Rookie of the Year. But I'd rather get the Cologne game over with. That to me is always a constant root canal. I'm just waiting. For him to get, to take an inning to decide what inning it's going to be that he's going to give 2 to 3 runs away. And I just, to me, it's a different Mets team when he pitches.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it just, it's just not. It's not the Mets that I want to see. I mean, I'm ready for this year and the youth and the bravado and the lumberjack beards and all of that. I'm ready for the kids to take. I was ready for the kids to take over last year, but Bartolo Colon doesn't represent that to me. I don't mean anything against him. I thank him for the wins that he's given, but I think this is just an effort to sell an extra 10,000 tickets at a couple of home games, and I can understand as an ex-businessman them doing that.
I agree, and to me it's a brilliant plan. You're going to sell out opening day anyway, and that second game is always kind of a dud crowd-wise, so why not bring Harvey in? The thing that gets me is that the people on Facebook and Twitter, they find any little thing. They hate the Wilpons so much. I'm not a big fan of the Wilpons either, but, let's face it, they own the team. They're not going to go anywhere. You can't force them to sell. And it's just every little thing that they try to pick on.
Yeah, the Wilpons, I wish that the Wilpons did not own the Mets, okay? But I have been a businessman and owned businesses in the past, and I write about this a lot, and I don't think a lot of the fan base, especially the young fan base, understand how the ownership in the debt world runs. And if you're going to buy a business that has a sizable value, you're going to owe money. You're going to have to borrow some money to do that. And the Wilpons didn't know the Bernie Madoff was going to rip them off. This wasn't something they knew, and the Mets lost $70,000 in 2011. You don't plan to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
When you have to, when something like that happens in a business, the bank either calls in the note or puts a tremendous amount of restrictions on you, and the Wilpons had nothing more. The only thing they could have done at that point was either, sell the team, which they didn't want to do, or hire somebody like a Sandy Alderson to work under the restraints, of a complete revised budget. And, you can't explain that. I'm not demeaning a fan, but you can't explain that to a 14-year-old on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, but that I mean, I don't happen to like, the character of the Wilpons either, and I wish that baseball could have come up with a reason to force them to have sold their team, but there really isn't anything that was done wrong. Did the Mets have to operate differently? Yes. Do I enjoy it? No. Do I like working with an under $90 million budget? Absolutely not. I wrote and was around and was a beat reporter when the Mets had the second largest payroll in baseball. It was much more fun, when you opened up the clubhouse door and Carlos Delgado walked in.
Oh yeah.
It was a lot simpler to try to make a run to the pennant when you had people like that coming in. So, there's a lot more, and I don't want to just reduce it to the Howard Megdans of the world and just keep beating the same drum about the finances of the Mets. Okay, but it just was a bad business situation, and the Wilpons decided they were not going to sell it, and they were going to operate it more like one of their condominiums than a baseball team.
Right.
And they have the right to do that. And all you and I have a right to do is either root for the team or don't.
Exactly.
So I've learned over the years that rooting for a team has nothing to do with winning.
Right.
Whether if this team doesn't win anything, you and I are still going to come back and root for them again next year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, see, I think we grew up with the '62 Mets, so.
Yeah, I've been doing. I've been doing it I've been rooting for them since 1962. And what did we have? 2 world champions. That's a pretty bad record.
Well, we had 2 we went to and lost too. So.
Yeah, it just. It's sad what's happened to this team in one sense. I mean, we talk about the Carlos Beltran legacy of he's always going to be remembered for not swinging at that pitch.
Right.
And we never come out of that. And we've never made the playoffs since. And and until the Mets make the playoffs, that's going to be the beat on the drum.
Right.
And it's sad, and people don't understand, and shut me up at any time, all right? People don't understand the business side of baseball. I was standing outside, the clubhouse in spring training a number of years ago, the year before Jose Reyes left. Mm-hmm. And Reyes always traveled with his entourage, which was one of his brothers and 3 or 4 other people. And this was back when I still smoked. And I went outside the clubhouse and was having a cigarette outside with Reyes's, people who were not allowed in the clubhouse. I had a clubhouse pass; they didn't. Mm-hmm. And I said to the brother, I said, is your brother really going to leave the Mets? I mean, you can't tell me that he's going to leave the Mets. I mean, he is. Him and David Wright represent the Mets. And he looked at me and he says, Mac, do you understand what it's like coming from where we lived and the poverty that we had? And, the money that my brother can make and how many relatives we can pull out of the, gutter and build them a new life? And we never think about that. And I knew that day when his brother told me that Jose Reyes was not going to be a Met, and, because he was going to go for the money outside. The money in this sport has changed everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's no longer the sport you and I grew up with.
Right.
And it never will be again, because every time there's a trade, every time there's a signing, you and I shake our head and say, this is ridiculous, this is crazy, this person's not worth it. Well, 3 years later, there's somebody signing for 30, 40 million more.
That's right.
And now we have these TV contracts coming in. What do you see what happens from here?
Oh, it's going to go through the roof, and just in time for Matt Harvey and Jacob deGrom to cash in, I guess.
Well, it's time for the Mets to decide what they're going to do in the future. I mean, the Mets have so far predictably, and so I happen to give Sandy Alderson as much credit as I try to. You know, I think the trades that he has made have been mostly have been very good. I think he's pissed a lot of other general managers off by making them look bad, like Pittsburgh, you know, like Toronto. I don't think he gets a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people want to trade with him, and I think that we're suffering because of that right now. But I think we're now bubbling over with the kids. With today, Matt Bowman pitched 5 scoreless innings. We don't even have a plan for Matt Bowman. But today, don't be surprised you don't see a left-hand relief pitcher down in the next 2 or 3 days for Matt Bowman.
Right.
We could be showcasing. We have 4 or 5 potential SP5 guys in this organization we don't even talk about. But we have to do what Washington has started doing last year. We have to start signing some of these Matt Harveys and even Zach Wheeler who's injured, but the DeGroms and all that. Even if we're giving away money early, we got to start signing some of these people now to extended contracts so we don't lose them at the end of arbitration.
Yeah, and it's like Cleveland did that in the 90s when they had that good young team. They tied up some of those guys, and they really have to start looking into that. I think that if the crowds come and the team starts winning, I think they will spend the money. I don't think that it's that they don't want to spend it. I think they're just trying to be wise with it, probably because they made some mistakes in the past and the Madoff situation. So I think they really will try to hold on to these guys. Now they could get blown away if they get to free agency, and that's a whole other different story. But let's go back to the 2015 Mets, and then we'll talk a little bit about the minor leagues as well. But
Okay.
What do you think of this team? How it's constituted? How these young guys are coming up? I'm excited for the year. How about you?
Yeah, I'm very, very cautiously optimistic. Okay, for all the wrong reasons, because I've always been, and I've always written, and 3-4 years ago, wait till you see this pitching staff in 2014. And then the Matt Harvey injury was a gut, shot to me, and we had to wait till this year. So I expect to, right now, I should be telling you what a great pitching staff we have. And now I'm watching, all of a sudden, we have people hitting the ball.
Right.
And I'm not used to that. But I'm very cautiously optimistic and excited because we're getting, we're developing some organizational depth, which is interesting. And I don't think you're going to see. I happen to think the Mets are going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make that playoff, and I think then the whole season's going to be who's got the most rest on that one game playoff that we'll have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that they will get there because I think that the pitching staff will carry them to the point where the Mets are going to give up less than 4 runs a game. For a season. And if you give up less than 4 runs a game for a season, you're going to win more than 85 games. And that's what you want to do. I mean, and I think our pitching will come first. However, this team does, because very subtly and very quietly, the Mets have signed a bunch of what we call mid-range stars. Curtis Granderson, Michael Kadaya, not household names, but between all the ball players, you have potentially 5 or 6 players in the lineup that could each hit 20 plus home runs.
Right.
And the offense could be spread out, very, very interesting, starting with Murphy, say in the 2-hole. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You don't have really much somebody. You don't have anybody to pitch around.
Right.
And that changes the whole outcome. David Wright doesn't have to carry this team, and Lucas Duda doesn't have to hit every home run. So I happen to think that they don't stand well alone. I mean, I was actually just writing something, that I was going to put on this weekend, and just say, with the corner outfielders, we don't have these guys aren't superstars, but they're good. They may be good enough because who else is on the team. And I happen to think that the Duda and the Murphy and the Flores and the Wright and the Darno and the corner and our corner outfielders and Lagares and Mayberry and Neuenhouse. It's a really good mid-range team. Now you put them with a powerhouse rotation and you got a great team.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not win, every game 9-2, but you're going to win. There's going to be an awful lot of games, Gary, this year that are going to be 2-1, 3-2, and 4-3. And it's going to take defense and a lot of luck, whether you won 4-3 or you lost 4-3. But still, I think that the team, has the opportunity. And will make the playoff, and I just want them to get off to the right start.
Right.
But I think it's been an exciting spring. I don't happen to take spring training that serious, but it's nice to see everybody hitting 400.
But there's a couple of other trends I've noticed in spring training that. It could change, of course, but it seems like they're making contact more. They're putting the ball in play, not striking out as much, and that's something I was screaming about all last year. To just make contact, put the ball in play, something can happen, and they seem to be doing that this spring, at least to my estimation.
Yeah, well, they're also swinging at the first or second pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And this is absolutely opposite from the old batting coach. We used to be obsessed with this on base percentage, and that's fine, But I'd rather be swinging at the ball and have the chance of having a double than having a walk.
Exactly.
They're being more aggressive because in almost a morose sense, the ticky-tacky injuries, and every team has injuries. We get obsessed with these injuries because we follow the Mets. I got news for you. Every team right now in baseball.
I couldn't agree more. You hear people saying, "Oh, here we go again." Well, go to MLB.com and look at the list of people that are injured. Every team gets them.
Yeah, this is called out of shape people playing baseball every day, And there's only one time. There's only one day in the entire spring training that they have off, and so they're either playing or on a bus. So you're going to stretch a muscle. You're going to do some of that, and people, the team doctors get very concerned and they get over conservative. And Daniel Murphy's on that, sitting on the bench a lot longer than he would be if we were in a 7-game World Series.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so, exactly. Yeah.
So it's, but it actually gives you a chance to find out if you have any depth. And everybody wrote that we didn't have anybody in camp that was any battles in camp. Well, now people are getting a chance to play. Matt Reynolds is getting a chance to play. Danny Muno is getting a chance to play. And we all remember Juan Lagares. I mean, nobody wrote more that he was never going to be anything than me, and I knew him very well. He was here 3 years. I remember the third year he came to Savannah on opening, the day he arrived on the press conference, he walked in the room. I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he turned to the manager and said, "See, even Max says I shouldn't be here." They didn't know what to do with him. He led the league 2 years previous as a shortstop in errors.
That's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was funny. They put him in right field for during BP, and he caught a ball and he threw it straight to third base as a rocket. And like everybody just stood and looked at it. All of a sudden, an outfielder was born.
Wow.
But see, you don't know until somebody plays, and so you wonder who have never made it, and who are the players that just never had a chance. You got to feel sorry for Matt Dendecker because that was his job.
Yeah.
Yep. But no, I am. Going back to your original question. I'm excited for this year. I really am. Because I think we stand a very good chance. Because I still think we're in a weak division, and I don't worry. I don't worry about competing against Washington. I give them the division. I'm playing for the mentally. I'm playing for the wild card, and I think we can do that.
I couldn't agree more. It's going to be exciting, and like you said, I think this is the first team that I've seen in a number of years that's balanced and does have depth. I mean, look, you lose Zach Wheeler, but you got Montero with Dylan G. Okay, not on the same par, but Dylan G's a decent major league pitcher, and he can step right in. And Montero looks like the experience probably last year helped him because he's been pitching better. So the depth goes through the minor leagues. And speaking of the minor leagues, there has been some news that the Savannah Sandgnats, the A-League team of the Mets, are moving to your neck of the woods, as a matter of fact. So what's your thoughts on Savannah picking up and leaving?
Well, that's been a really bad marriage when the current owners that own the team, ever since they bought that team, they really want the city of Savannah to build a new stadium, and they're never going to get their way. The city of Savannah was not going to invest money into a new stadium in that town because baseball has always been a losing venture for anybody that's owned that team and to the city itself. Savannah is a very different kind of a town. Georgia is a different state. There is no number two city in Georgia. There's Atlanta, and then there's a bunch of cities with small buildings. I mean, nobody, Macon looks exactly like Savannah. That looks exactly like Columbus. The largest building is in Savannah holds grain. So, they really don't, want to compete, in the 21st century. It's a very deep Southern, mentality. I used to own radio stations there, and as I told you off the air, I tried to build a radio tower in Savannah, and it was like trying to get North Korea and South Korea to get together for dinner. It was not going to happen. They don't want to move on into the 21st century. They like keeping their head stuck in the sand. The other side of it is that nobody goes to watch baseball. Savannah is a town that people that live in Savannah root for the Atlanta Braves.
Right.
And anybody else has that affiliate the only time anybody comes out to a Savannah game is on Thursday because you buy one you get another one free. And that's Thirsty Thursdays, and the police sit outside, and you make a left turn, they pull you over and take you to jail with a DUI, and that's the Savannah game. And you get an average crowd in Savannah is about 1,100 people. So it just it wasn't going to happen, and I saw this coming. I'm not going to miss it. And they're going to move to Columbia, probably. It'll be the same humidity. The ball still won't carry it that well like Savannah, but it won't be Grayson Stadium, which is a real horrible place to play.
The historic Grayson Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a horrible place. I mean, you can stand and, if a ball was going to hit straight out into center field for home run. Just stand against the wall and put your glove out, and if the ball is going to go over your head, don't worry, it's going to come back. Because the humidity will just drop it, right into your glove. And this is what I have. I went to every Savannah game for a number of years as a beat reporter. And what people don't realize is, let's say Dominic Smith last year. You watched him just wilt, by the end of the season.
Right.
You're just tired. You're playing in the field temperature is 109 to 112 on the grass, and they got these kids out there, at 2:00 in the afternoon running cones, and game time is 7:00. And and they're doing this every day, boom, boom, and these kids have never what we call the grind, playing a full season of baseball,
right?
And, 2 years prior, you're playing weekend ball for high school or college, so it's not a wonderful place to play, and so I bid them farewell, and And I don't think you're going to see a change. I mean, this is probably the end of it. You're not going to see it come up again. They will leave Savannah this time.
Now, were they? Am I wrong in believing that they played in Columbia years ago, or am I?
Yes, they did. Yes,
okay.
They did. But I don't remember exactly well. Mm-hmm. I'd say sometime in the 90s.
Yeah,
90s.
I don't, but it seems familiar to me for some reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And Savannah's gone through a number of affiliates. Savannah became, I believe, the Mets affiliate in 2007, which was the first year I became a beat reporter for the local Morris Communication papers, and that was when Tim Tuffle was the manager. Mm-hmm. And that was a really fun year because Tim and I got to know each other, and he gave me 100% access to the clubhouse, and that was exciting, to have that, and and that also was I think the 2007 Savannah lost more games than any team in baseball. But this is what Sandy Alderson doesn't get the credit for. The Mets have 3 years in a row had the best win-loss percentage for the combined minor league teams.
Right.
And very quietly and subtly, they have built, mostly with high school picks, a very deep, organization. And
right.
When I started doing this, Gary, there was two of us writing about the Mets minor leagues, and that was Toby Hyde and I. And Toby and I had discussed this a number of times, and we can't figure out who started first. Okay, we don't know if he did it or Max Met started first. But I started doing this in 2005 and writing about the minor leagues, and that's basically all I wrote about was the minor leagues, and nobody knew. I remember going to the Mets, clubhouse in spring training, and I remember Adam Rubin saying to me, "Mac, would you do me a favor? I don't know anything about the minor leagues. Can you email me every week and tell me what's going on?" Nobody followed the minor leagues.
Right.
Now, there's thousands of people who know the blood type, of the guys in Kingsport. So, it's nothing, it's not special anymore, so, but we still don't know, it's impossible. I get so many emails and so many tweets and so many different things. Tell me about so-and-so. Is Ahmed Rosario going to be a great ball player? Is Milton Ramos going to be a great? Nobody has any idea.
No.
They're 18 years old.
Right.
Call me back in 3 or 4 years, and we'll see what happens. You're not going to know the secret of the minor leagues. And remember, I said this. And if anybody else asks,
okay.
The secret of the minor leagues is AA, and that's what's called the prospect league.
Right.
that's the wall that you hit. I could write you about 1,000 pitchers that had an ERA under 2 in Brooklyn that never got out of Double A.
Right.
And the best quote I always remember was, Josh Tolley's telling me, he said, Mac, remember when we used to stand there and watch certain players come through Savannah in that league and say, boy, look at Jason Hayward. I mean, look at some of these players. He says, Mac, at Double A, they all are Jason Hayward.
Yeah.
And that's you don't know until you mature and your body matures and put a 17-year-old next to a 23-year-old and look at the difference of those two players. The Mets minor leagues, we sit there and have spent the whole year talking about who's going to play shortstop, and they potentially, Ahmed Rosario, Alfredo Reyes, Milton Ramos, Luis Guillon, they potentially have 4 future All-Stars.
And Cicchini too isn't got to be in the mix somewhere. No.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention Reynolds and Cicchini.
Yeah.
So there are potentially a lot of more people that can come along. Well, that's where, because the new organization under Alderson, the new regime has targeted more towards high school players. We're not getting to see what develops until further on down the road.
Right.
And so we don't know and the general public doesn't know exactly what is going on. And we've got a third baseman, Joe Urena, who probably will play in Savannah this year. Potentially, could be another baby bull. But he's just a young kid still learning how to play baseball.
And believe me, they can be a little. You have to sit back, as you said, and realize they're 19. I saw Urena and Rosario last year, and Conforto in Brooklyn, and I had to duck a couple of throws behind first base with Urena and Rosario. But I mean, for looking at raw talent at this age, you look at them and you say, "Oh, I think these guys can play." Now, as you say, you got to see whether they progress, and it's a mental thing as well as physical, and all of that. But I tell you, Conforto can hit. I think he's I don't think he's going to have any problems. But he's a little older too. He was a college guy.
Yeah, and remember that age. It's very important when you bring that up.
Right.
I mean, everybody talks all the time about pitchers like Akil Morris, and different things like. They're pitching, to people 2 years younger than them.
Right, right.
I mean, so I don't know. The Mets do this sometime, and it shakes my head why they have players at certain levels. There actually is a lot of talk to just sending Conforto to Savannah this spring, and that would make no sense to me.
No, I would send them I would send him to Binghamton personally.
Yeah. He seems like a pure hitter to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't understand. The Alderson seems to be sometimes obsessed with the pecking order, keeping things in order, keeping things proper, and people can get blocked out that way. And I don't really care if I'm pissing somebody off. If send them back down to level and get out of the way so I can put a more talented player ahead of you. And there's a log jam at AAA. I mean, you've got Corey Vaughn, Travis Tejon, or however you pronounce his name. Siciliani, Kyle Johnson, Castellanos, Matt Dendecker. There's too many outfielders.
Yeah.
So But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be moving Michael Conforto any quicker.
No, without a doubt.
So I don't understand what that is, but there's a very good future right now in the Mets, in the minor leagues, depth wise, in future ball players, and I ranked the top prospect in the organization is Dilson Herrera. I really think he's going to be a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
I even had him ranked higher than Noah Syndergaard. But I just see him being, an outstanding ball player. But I think that the Mets, in the rest of this decade, and at least the rest of this decade, I think we're going to be a pitcher-based team. And
right.
We haven't even seen two of our best pitchers yet. And and that's Syndergaard and Matz.
And Matz, yeah.
And I can't figure out. To me, next year's rotation. When Wheeler heals, would be Harvey, Wheeler, DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Matz, and that's not. I can't think you could put a better rotation, together than that. I feel sorry for Montero. I think he's a major league starter. But I would never trade him.
Yeah.
Because Alderson also already has proved to everybody why he's held on to his pitching the minute Wheeler went down. Nobody's cried about that again. Montero gives us an option right now. The bullpen is, you talked earlier how excited am I about this year? I'm really worried about the bullpen. And like today, Bowman's, perfect 5 innings were blown away by Familia giving up 5 hits in a row. Right now the bullpen is not in good shape, but a little healing, a little bit luck, it could survive that. But I think you got two long men. You're going to have Torres and Montero. You're going to have two long men that'll help an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
And especially early on in the season when there's inning restrictions. So you're going to see a lot of starters going 6 innings, and then you're going to see those guys going 2 innings, and then you're going to see one person pitching the last inning, and you're going to see somebody win a game 3-2, and that's what we have to hope for, that we're the one with 3 runs.
Right.
Lastly, on this season, I happen to think David Wright will have a good season. I think he's healed. I think he knows that he's at 32 years old. He's reaching the top of the mountain, and I think you're going to see the return of the old David Wright, this season. And Wright has a way, like Mike Piazza did. He has a way of winning games.
Right.
And I think that's what the Mets are going to need, as a guy like that. But he's the only superstar batter. He's still on this team. We don't have anybody past him.
No, yeah, but we do have some depth and length in the order, as you said earlier, and that's going to help him. He don't have to carry everybody.
No, and it just. You'll have the potential of a bunch of people hitting 275, 280, and hitting 20 home runs and hitting 65 to 70 runs batted out. Now, in an individual person, that doesn't sound like an exciting season. But if 7 or 8 people did that, you have a great team.
Exactly, and that's what that's what I think. Get the whole thing is that everybody is so set on these. We need more home runs. No, you need RBIs. You need people to drive in the runners. That's what you need. You don't need the home run.
All you need is one more run than the other team.
That's right.
That's all you need.
That's it.
That's it. And I tell these people, 75% of the game is mental. The other 25% is all in your head. I played third base, all right, and every sport is a game of inches, okay?
Right.
And there's a familiarity, all right. When I played, on third base, Paul Altruda was my shortstop, and we played for years together, and he knew that. And I hugged the line. I played third, closer to the line, because I moved better to the left.
Okay.
And he knew that, so he played deeper in the hole. It's short.
Right.
And so we knew exactly how each other played the game. So that's what the Mets need, is some consistency with the same players on the field.
Right.
But you have the potential of putting three people on base in an inning a number of times with this team. And if you put three people on base in one inning, there's a good chance one of them are going to score. That's not going to be three singles, without a run scored, or three walks.
Right.
If you have eight people batting 275 to 280, that's a lot of people on base during the game. And that you have that talent here. So that's what we have to hope for. I pray that Curtis Granderson and Travis Dunno get off to a good start. God, if we have another 0 for 15, on this team,
Well,
I think your season's going to tell an awful lot in the first month, because you're playing against all the division games.
I think Granderson's going to have a good year. Darnell, I'm a little concerned about, but I'm not as worried because I figure Plawecki's right there, and he looks like he can hit. So as we're back to that depth again, there is, for the first time, some players that you can pluck out of your minor league system, and hopefully you still don't know, but they have the potential to be equal or better than the players that you have.
Yeah, Plawecki is a bat. He's a decent bat. He's also in the head of Darno, which is good. Darno knows he's back there.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much there's not much positive having a AAA team in a town like Las Vegas with a rarefied air.
Right.
That's for a pitcher, it's a nightmare. But at the same time, for a batter, it's a positive. And it's not a bad thing sometimes for your catcher to, when the game is over, to go online and find out that your AAA catcher's batting 400. It gives you the right motivation, to get back into the batting. Travis Darno learned something very important last year when he went down to AAA, and Wally Bachman said it. He learned to relax.
Mm-hmm.
They called him into, to George Grant and George Greer, who was a coach at Wake Forest for a number of years, legendary, coach at Wake Forest, and the coach down there, and what's his name, Frank Viola. Greer and Viola and Bachman called Darno into the office and sat him down for 45 minutes and just talking about nothing, just how you doing, and they just said, listen, just relax. You're here, you're stuck here, you're not going back up for at least 30 days. Why don't you just learn to enjoy it? And the first night he went out, and I think he got 2 or 3 hits, and he was batting 400 right from the get-go. And he learned there was a different way of playing this game. And he didn't press. And that's what he has to remember, and he has the God-given talent to be a decent bat. You gotta be positive. But I don't know if you played sports. One of the sports I played was tennis, and I was a great server, but I was horrible at volleying. Right? But if I was down love 40, and I was bouncing a ball and ready to.
What happened? Well, we apparently got disconnected, so let's see if I can get him back on the line.
Hello.
Hi. Apparently, we got disconnected. Hello.
Hey.
Apparently, we got disconnected.
Yeah. It started beeping at one point.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck happened there.
That's okay.
So you were saying when you were down love 40.
Well, if I was serving, I still was confident enough to know I was still going to win that point. All right. So if I was bouncing the ball, I would be saying to myself, I'm still going to win this point. I'm maybe down low 40, but I'm going to come back. But if you were serving to me before you even hit the first ball, I was moving in the wrong direction, ready to defend. And I knew I was going to lose that point because I didn't have the confidence.
Right.
And that's when you stand in and to hit a baseball, when someone's throwing a ball at 93 to 95 miles an hour, you have less than 0.4 of a second to decide whether that's a fastball, changeup, or a slider. And it's an impossible guessing game. It's why the pitches that you and I have learned to call great pitches have a repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
And Mario Rivera proved that you only need one pitch. You just have to throw it and have it able to go in 11 different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, he was masterful at that, and that's what made him how great he was. But people like Dylan G, have survived and actually been very successful in this game because he has 4 to 5 different pitches.
Right.
And you have no idea what. Now he doesn't set the plate with a fastball. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But he does. You have no idea what he's going to throw you, and if you get into his head, that you probably are going to guess wrong, and you may hit the ball, but you're not going to hit the ball with the barrel of your bat. And
right.
That's when you and I see soft grounders to second base.
Exactly.
Yes, they hit the ball, but they didn't hit it solidly, because they didn't time it and they didn't guess right at the pitch. There's nothing worse than having a pitcher that throws 95 and the ball straight, because major league ball players can hit them things.
Exactly. It's the movement and the location.
Right. So that's it. Rafael Montero throws strikes. That's what he's best at.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get that from him. The batter knows that's going to be somewhere in the range. And now you just got to guess what he's throwing. But he doesn't set up his game on the fastball either, even though he throws a pretty, decent fastball.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think people 99% of the people that go to a baseball game have never had a baseball thrown at them at 95 miles an hour.
Well, it's not a fun thing.
I mean, there's, it's standing to a batting cage. I don't even think batting cages legally allow something to throw. That's a lethal weapon.
Yeah, I don't know how fast they go, but you know what? Getting a batting cage at 75 and it seems like 90 to the layman.
Right. So the team has a tremendous amount of talent pitching wise right now, and I just want it set up. I think this team is going to be in wonderful shape at the end of 7 innings. And that's what I worry about. Where we go.
Those last two. Well, but bullpens evolve over the course of a season, so hopefully things will shake out and work out, and we'll get Parnell back and Vic Black back healthy, and hopefully that'll fill their gaps in. And
I'll tell you, I'll make you one prediction, okay? And I'll leave you with this. So, the left-hand relief pitcher. Well, I think there'll be 2 of them on opening, day. I think the team will go north with 2 lefties in the pen. All right. And I don't know who the second one will be. It'll be somebody, in the mix right now. But I think one of them is not on the roster and not in the organization right now.
Okay.
I think we'll have some. We'll have to, because there will be a number of people. Every team in baseball, all 30 teams, have got to cut their roster to 25 people in the next 10 or 12 days, and
Right.
there's going to be a lot of people available to make a deal for.
Yeah, I think that's what Sandy's waiting for, waiting to see who gets cut, who's out of options that gets let go, all those kind of things.
Yeah, and I don't see anybody. If I don't see anybody right now in camp that screams out that you got to take them with you. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure who I would take. Right? Maybe Gil Martin. Maybe I don't know. But I think that we got to get this pen solved, and Montero probably will calm that down a little bit.
Right. Yeah. All right, a couple of quick questions before we go. Daniel Murphy, does he make it through the season as a Met, or will he be traded?
I think that his first thing he's got to do is stay healthy. And if he goes back on any kind of DL or something like that, he'll never be traded for. I think he does end the season as a Met, and I think that the Mets say goodbye to him. And I think he's done a wonderful job as a Met, and I think it's sad to see him go.
Okay, and last question. Terry Collins, is he the manager of the Mets at the end of the year?
No, I'll put it this way. I don't think Sandy Alderson is a man who likes to change things during the season. Okay, and I don't. It would take a really collapse of the Mets during the season for him to fire Collins during the season. But I don't think there's 1% chance of Collins returning next year, because there is and I say this for things that I know and things I can't tell you why I know them. Okay,
darn it!
There is absolutely no relationship currently between Alderson and Collins. And that's just a professional relationship, and that's all it is. And Collins is I think this is definitely his last year as a Mets manager, and I think it's a very good idea, because this is a young, exciting team, and I think it needs a young, exciting manager.
But will Alderson go with a young, exciting manager? And I think we all know who we're talking about here.
Wally?
Yes.
I don't think Wally Bachman has a chance to ever be the Mets manager. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just don't, because I think Wally I just think he has a way of getting himself in trouble. And he just can't shut up.
Yeah, I hear you. Though he's
been... that's far past Sandy Alderson. That's the elephants named Wilpon and Saul Katz. I mean, Wally Bachman has already done enough things to upset people in the front office.
Right.
And he's just, not built. I mean, we need you need a guy like Joe Torre again. You need. Well, first of all, you have to realize nothing is done on this team without the approval of Alderson. He has total 100% control, and he's a power freak. I mean, he's a control freak. So nobody gets in a lineup unless he approves. So being the manager of the Mets is not that really that important of a job. So you're going to have to be a B personality. You're not going to be competing with the alpha male called Sandy.
Right.
And that's Wally. I mean, Wally is a he's a tsunami. So.
So Terry Collins goes. Who is the replacement?
I don't know. I think that the guy that would do a very good job and would be the perfect personality for Alderson would be Tim Tuffle, and because you never hear him say anything. and he's a wonderful baseball mind.
Right.
Right. And the players all respect him, and they all have played for him. He's been in the he's managed all of them at some juncture.
Mm-hmm.
And but I had no idea outside where they would go, but that's what you have off seasons for. So I don't see the Mets, getting that. I don't see them going too far in the playoffs. But let's remember, wasn't this year we had 2 wild card teams playing the World Series?
That's right.
Anything can happen. So if you all you got to do is get in the playoffs, and you give it to this pitching staff, and and it could be magic. So that's all I want them to do. I want them to score one more run than the other team. That's all I want them to do. I don't care how they do it.
And that's a great philosophy. He is Mack Ade. His website is MackMets at blogspot.com. And go check it out. Mack, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, and God bless.
Okay. And we'll be back after this.